The fact that they shoot at people as they're waiting in line for humanitarian aid. Dozens of people get shot and killed literally every single day. Every single day as they're waiting for food. No, I'm not going to let you filibuster, bitch. I'm not going to let you filibuster. I'm not going to let you filibuster. You guys are totally okay with IDF soldiers shooting and killing desperate people waiting for humanitarian aid. You're okay with that.
Hey guys, welcome back. In this clip, tensions explode as Ana Kasparian, Piers Morgan, and guests clash in a heated live debate on Gaza and Israel. What starts as a discussion quickly turns into a full-blown confrontation with emotions running high on all sides. Watch closely, and I'll share my thoughts after.
People who don't agree with it.
Where's your decency, man? Where is your decency? Seriously, where is your decency? Do you not see the videos? Do you not see the starving children? 19 kids died of starvation over the last 48 hours. Where is your decency? I get that you're Jewish. I get that this is about your identity. I get that you want to defend your people. But sometimes you can't defend the indefensible. How many people need to die for you to be pleased with this slaughter campaign that's currently going on? How many? Tell me. When is it enough for you? And no one is buying the lie that that the genocide would end if Hamas releases the hostages. I'm not going to believe for a second that Israel gives a damn about the hostages because they've been bombing the Gaza Strip. They've been blocking humanitarian aid from entering the Gaza Strip. That not only impacts Palestinians who are being slaughtered by Israel, but it also obviously is going to impact the hostages. No one is buying this dog and pony show, okay? It's so obvious what Israel is doing here. They're even bombing Syria because they allegedly care about the Druze. It's not about the Druze. By the way, that Syrian civil war, Israel was part of that proxy war that you have Israel part of, the United States part of, Turkey a part of. All sorts of countries were involved in that proxy war. It was absolutely horrific. And now, of course, Israel is taking full advantage of the situation to annex more land from Syria again. But anyway, continue. Tell me where your human decency is.
I have to say, as someone who grew up on the far left, actually watching you, Anna, and Cenk Uygur on the Young Turks, it's very, very sad for me personally to see just how far gone politically you have become.
I don't care.
Audible discharge is not, excuse me, stop interrupting. Audible discharge is not a usurpation of a coherent argument. You simply saying that I'm using my Jewish identity. This has nothing to do with my Jewish identity. It has to do with politics.
It is about your Jewish identity. Literally, everyone in the international community sees this for what it is, and you can't? You can't? How many people need to die?
You know, again, you are double my age. I encourage you to use the decorum of a 7-year-old and stop interrupting. You interrupt every other guest. Kindly just shut up.
No.
Now, here's the issue.
I don't care about decorum when we're talking about endless
all right, but you must let him answer.
That we're paying for.
All right, but Anna, look, you must let him answer.
Okay, go ahead.
So again, this question of how many civilians? No one asked that question in World War I. No one asked that question in World War II. No one asked that question in the Korean War. No one asked that question in the Vietnam War. No one asked that question in Iraq and Afghanistan, because you do not judge the efficacy, the validity, or the justification of a war depending on how many civilians are killed. If you truly want to end the killing of civilians, then I would urge you to use your platform and use the Young Turks to advocate for a ceasefire, the expurgation, the dismantlement of Hamas.
Don't tell me what to use the Young Turks for.
All right, let me go. All right, let me go to Gideon.
Give a voice to the voiceless, to the powerless.
Okay.
Not to people who have all the power in the world and use it to slaughter innocent people.
Okay, let me come to Gideon. To be waiting. Let me come to Gideon. It seems to me the problem with those like Shabbos trying to defend all this and saying how pleased they are with it all is that you've also got people like Smotrich in the Israeli government, the finance minister, one of the key members of that government, very openly talking now about a form of ethnic cleansing, where all the Palestinians, in his words, would be cleansed from Gaza. And this is clearly, it seems to me, becoming ever more obviously what the bigger plan may be here, which is that actually Israel's defense forces make it so uninhabitable, Gaza, by just blowing it all to pieces, that actually they say, well, you can't go back and live there to the Palestinians. You're going to have to all leave. And then they leave, and then Israel takes it over. I think that's exactly what people like Smotrich want, and that is not a form of self-defense to what happened on October the 7th. It's an ethnic cleansing of a population out of their homeland. What do you say to that?
Unfortunately, the problem is not Smotrich. Unfortunately, the problem is Israeli society. which is either supporting or quite passive and apathetical. Smotrich is the face of Israel, I'm afraid to say. He says loudly and in a very vulgar way things that you can understand for many, many other Israelis, maybe the majority, who sits at home, who doesn't watch anything of what's going on in Gaza, who has no interest in what's going on in Gaza, and sits, and then comes someone like our friend in the team now, who is even proud in it. Can you believe that a Jew, a human being, an American, can be proud of starvation, of mass murder, of genocide? I mean, this stage, really, here I remain speechless. I can understand if the Israeli propaganda tries to explain, to cover up, to spread lies, to talk about self-defense, to talk about killing Hamas, to talk about the fact that it's about Israel's security. But to be proud of what we are doing, to be proud of slaughtering 20,000 children, how can a human being get out those words out of his mouth? This is not human. I'm really sorry. Only the Nazis spoke like this. I repeat, only the Nazis were proud of mass killing and genocides.
Okay, well, Shabbos, you should respond to that.
Sure, I'm certainly not proud of mass starvation because there isn't any. I'm proud of the fact that
hang on. The IDF literally, for 3 months, starved the population in a blockade. There was no secret about that. Everybody saw it for what it was. So I'm afraid you're just not right about that. They only recently ended that blockade. So they are starving the population, which is, by the way, a war crime if you do that.
Piers, do you know how many meals the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation
spare me all this. It's just crap. It's like when I did a list, honestly. Shabbos, I did a list, Shabbos. I did a list. Hang on.
To starve a population, why would you give them 85 million meals in the last month and a half?
I know. They're all overfed. I know.
Is there more aid going into Gaza post-October 7th than pre-October 7th? I cannot name another war in
and
modern
you know the
warfare
problem, Shabbos?
The besieged population is actually receiving aid from the enemy combatant. That is what I'm proud of.
It's amazing. Look, Shabbos, here's the thing. Unfortunately, you sound like the people who have started to defend the indefensible when it comes to what Israel's government is doing. And I'll tell you why. After all these attacks on Palestinians as they're queuing up for food, the IDF says basically the same thing. Either they were firing warning shots, or they felt they were being threatened by some people, or they've launched an inquiry or an investigation. And we never get the results of any of this. But in the meantime, 1,000 people who are desperately hungry and are queuing for food, even though you say they've got plenty of food, there are thousands stampeding for the small amounts of food that they can get their hands on, even though you say they're not hungry because you've overfed them, right? That all these people are just dropping dead. And it's got nothing to do with the fact the IDF are firing towards them, when everybody knows it does. And this is the problem when you defend the indefensible. It would have so much more credibility if the IDF just once said, you know what, we did. We shot at them, and like you said, you're very proud of everything they're doing. And if they were to proudly own this and explain why they need to shoot starving people who are stampeding for fragments of food, maybe we'd all take a lot more seriously the other claims they make. And the other point I'd make, Shabbos, is when you now just tell me I'm talking nonsense and they're all overfed and no one's getting killed and it's all on Hamas. To this day, the Israeli government refuses to let any international media into Gaza. And it's not because of the quaint notion that they're worried about the safety of journalists, because they've killed over 200 Palestinian journalists. They don't care about the health and safety of journalists, and it's not their business to decide about the safety requirements of journalists. It's the business of the organizations that employ them. But until Israel's government allows foreign media into Gaza to verify its endless, in my opinion, utterly disingenuous statements, then no one should believe a word they're now saying. Because why should we? Why should we? Why should we believe anything that the Israeli government is saying about any of this when they don't want the world's media to see it? After October the 7th, what was the first thing they did? They brought the world's media into the kibbutzes to see the full horror of what Hamas did to verify the truth. But they won't apply that same thinking to verifying the truth in Gaza. And as a journalist, I know why they don't want to do that. They don't want people to see the truth. They're hiding the truth. That enables them to lie with impunity and to discount any responsibility for anything they're doing. And if I sound angry about this, it's because I'm bloody angry about it. Because it's so obvious that they don't want people to see the truth. And you can sit here and you can say till you're blue in the teeth, there's nothing going on that's wrong. There's nothing to see here. It's all on Hamas. No one's starving anyone. No one's shooting anyone in food aids. No one's doing anything wrong. This is the most moral army in the world. Well, okay. So let the journalists in and we can see for ourselves just how true that all is.
So after listening to that disquisition, let me say this. You're certainly entitled to your opinions, but you're not entitled to your own facts. I agree with you. The Israel Foreign Ministry and the Israel Defense Forces should let journalists like yourself, Piers, not only into Gaza, but also into the Kerem Shalom border crossing. So you can see with your own eyes, the way I have seen, the more than 800 humanitarian aid trucks that were going into Gaza on a daily basis. I never once said that
why
there's
are they
no
stampeding for food? If they're so overfed, why are they stampeding for food?
Piers, I defend you constantly. You are not an anti-Semite, obviously, but I do understand why people have trepidation coming on your show because they allow you to speak for 5 minutes, and the moment I try to make a point, you interrupt. So if you allow me just 2 minutes to make my point, and then you can tell me why.
Just make your point.
Okay.
Just make your point. Stop crying about it.
No, that's a valid thing to say. It's fine. I don't want to keep interrupting people. That's fine. Go on.
I appreciate it. Let me say as follows. I agree with you. Journalists should be allowed into Gaza. I imagine, though, the Israeli position is, well, we can't allow journalists into Gaza because if the accusations from individuals like Piers Morgan or Ana Kasparian is that we are killing journalists indiscriminately, and then journalists were to end up being killed because Gaza is an active war zone, you can imagine what that would do on the PR front. Never mind the fact that British military rule does not allow journalists into active combat zones. So what you are saying is we should apply a double standard to Israel, that they need to allow journalists into an active war zone, but no other Western country needs to follow the same procedures. Even with that double standard, I would concede that point. I agree journalists should be allowed in. As for starvation, I never once said that people are being overfed. I never once said that what the IDF is doing inherently all the time is good. What I am saying is the IDF has taken measures that no other Western country has ever taken in modern warfare. The fact that they drop leaflets on buildings telling civilians to evacuate because there are known Hamas entities in those buildings. The fact that they have provided more aid into Gaza post-October 7th than pre-October 7th is something I'm very proud of. And if you believe that the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation is not doing enough,
the fact that they shoot at people as they're waiting in line for humanitarian aid. Dozens of people get shot and killed literally every single day. Every single day as they're waiting for food. No, I'm not going to let you filibuster, bitch. I'm not going to let you filibuster. I'm not going to let you filibuster. You guys are totally okay with IDF soldiers shooting and killing desperate people waiting for humanitarian aid. You're okay with that. I find it so unbelievably evil. Unbelievably evil. It shocks my conscience and my soul that people as evil as this exist in this world. Okay? Watching these images, looking at these videos, seeing all these kids desperate, hungry, parentless, trapped in Gaza. And you're sitting here and you're defending it. I can't stand it. I can't listen to it. The filibustering is unbearable. It's unbearable.
What this debate really shows is how divided and emotionally charged discussions around Gaza and Israel have become, especially in mainstream media panels. Instead of calm disagreement, you often get multiple voices talking over each other, strong accusations, and very little room for nuance in the moment. Ana Kasparian's frustration reflects a broader feeling many viewers have that these discussions often become more about winning arguments on live TV than actually unpacking the facts or human impact behind the conflict. At the same time, voices like Piers Morgan and the other guests push the conversation into confrontation, which keeps the debate intense, but also chaotic. In the end, moments like this don't really produce a clear winner. What they do is highlight how sensitive, polarizing, and unresolved the issue remains in global media. It leaves the audience with more questions than answers, and that's exactly why clips like this spread so widely online.